I didn't react the way people expect when someone asks for a break. No yelling, no accusations, no dramatic last conversation where everything spills out at once. She said it calmly, sitting across from me at the kitchen island we'd picked out together 2 years earlier. "I just need space," she said. "There are things I never resolved with him." Him, her ex. The same one who cheated on her twice before we met. She said she needed to see if there was anything left there. If maybe they'd ended things too soon, if maybe she had unfinished feelings she needed to face. She kept emphasizing the word break, like it was temporary. Like the relationship we'd built was just something that could be paused, while she checked something else. I remember staring at the grain of the countertop while she talked. It wasn't the request itself that bothered me most. It was how reasonable she sounded while asking it. Like I was supposed to understand. Like the man she planned to revisit had somehow become a loose end in our relationship. For a few days after that conversation, I tried to treat it the way she framed it. A pause. Friends asked what I was going to do. I kept giving the same answer. Give her time. But the house felt different immediately. Every room suddenly felt like a waiting room. Her side of the closet half empty. Her car gone most nights, the silence after work stretching longer and longer. Waiting sounds simple when people say it out loud. In practice, it's a strange emotional suspension. Your life keeps moving, but your future feels like it belongs to someone else's decision. One evening I was sitting in the living room looking around at everything we'd built together. The mortgage. The furniture. The photos on the wall, and it hit me with a kind of quiet clarity. If I stayed there, I wasn't just giving her space. I was holding my life in place while she decided whether she wanted it. That realization didn't make me angry. It made something in me go still. The house went on the market 2 weeks later. I didn't announce it to her. At that point she was barely around anyway, and when she was, the conversations were short and careful. Like we were both avoiding the obvious. I started applying for jobs in other states. Not somewhere close, somewhere far enough that returning to the old routine wouldn't happen accidentally. When the offer came through, it was from a company across the country. I accepted the same afternoon. Selling the house moved faster than I expected. The market was good, and within a month everything was finalized. By then she had noticed something was different. One night she asked, "You've been really distant lately, is everything okay?" It was a strange question considering the situation. I just said, "Yeah. I've been making some decisions." I didn't elaborate. When the moving truck pulled away a few weeks later, she wasn't there. I left the keys with the realtor and drove west with everything I owned packed behind me. I changed my number shortly after arriving, closed social media. Not as a punishment. More like closing a door quietly so the draft stopped coming in. The first couple months in the new city were uneventful. New job. Small apartment. Long evenings figuring out routines that didn't involve another person's schedule. Sometimes I wondered if leaving without another conversation had been cowardly. Sometimes it felt like the cleanest break I'd ever made from anything. Life didn't dramatically improve, but it did become simpler. About 6 months in, a mutual friend from back home called me. We hadn't spoken in a while, so the conversation drifted through the usual updates before he mentioned her. Apparently the reunion with her ex hadn't gone well. No one seemed surprised. The same patterns that ended their relationship before had shown up again almost immediately. Arguments, trust issues, eventually another betrayal. But this time things had unraveled differently. Without our house and the financial stability we'd built together, she'd moved twice in a few months. Her job performance slipped during everything that followed. What she thought would be closure had turned into a long chain of consequences. I listened quietly while he talked. I didn't feel satisfaction, mostly just distance. About 2 months after that call, an email appeared in my inbox from an address I didn't recognize. It was her. The message wasn't long. She said she'd tried to reach me for weeks. She'd asked around for my number. Eventually someone mentioned my work email. She wrote that things had gotten complicated. That she'd made mistakes. That maybe the break had gone too far. At the end she asked if we could talk. Just once. For closure. I sat with the email open for a long time before responding. 8 months earlier, I had been the one hoping for another conversation. Waiting for her to decide whether I was the future she wanted. Now the situation had quietly reversed. Not in a dramatic way. Just in the simple fact that I wasn't waiting anymore. We eventually spoke on the phone a few days later. Her voice sounded tired. The confidence she'd had when she asked for the break was gone. She talked about everything that had happened since. How things with her ex had collapsed again. How unstable the past year had been. Then she asked if maybe we had ended things too quickly. If maybe there was a chance to revisit what we had. I listened without interrupting. When she finished, there was a long pause on the line. Finally I said, "When you asked for that break, I realized something." "What?" "That I didn't want to build a life where I had to compete with someone from the past." She didn't respond right away. "I'm not angry," I added, "but I did move on." Another long silence. Eventually she said she understood. When the call ended, I set the phone down and went back to what I'd been doing before the email arrived, making dinner in a quiet apartment thousands of miles from the house we once shared. Leaving hadn't felt like a victory when I did it. It had just felt necessary. But 8 months later, the difference was clear. Her life had unraveled in ways neither of us expected. Mine hadn't become extraordinary. It had simply become my own.